Talk about tonight. It's a little bit of some of the bits we spoke about last week. So I hope you watched last week. I think over 118 people did, which is quite scary to be fair. I know it's not thousands. I'm not after that. It just seems quite a lot. So yeah, last week we spoke about emotions from quite a candid perspective as a man, as a boy growing up. This week I'm going to kind of elaborate a little bit on some of that, so it'll be a kind of like part 2 of that. But I also want to say first off, if you've not been here before, hello, my name's Alistair. I'm a life coach and medium, so I class myself as a mediumistic life coach. I'm also a carer, Reiki master, and I've got Norse qualifications. I don't know why I started saying those ones. They forced themselves out of my head. You've got to do something during COVID, haven't you? Where was I going with that? Yeah, so these talks are coffee and coaching. Yes, I run a life coaching business, but this is free. If you want to message me on here, you want to interact and get involved, by all means do so. You want to drop a little love heart into the comments just to show me you're there, or a little waving hand or something, that's excellent. So yeah, so we're going to talk this evening about emotions. It will be quite candid. It's not my intention to offend anybody. Everything I'm going to say is all from my perspective. It was my experiences. Oh, the light's gone funny on me. Oh, there we go. We've got somebody watching. So somebody dropped in live. Threw me off my guard then. So yeah, so tonight's main focus, other than emotions, is talking about normal and trying to maintain some sense of normality when you have mental health. And like I said, I'm going to talk about this from my perspective as a person that's suffered with mental health for as long as I can remember, really. Some of what I'm going to talk about will be to do with when I've tried to seek help through the NHS. At no point am I bashing the NHS at all. They do a fantastic job, but when it comes to mental health help, we're dropping the ball a bit there. So, like I said, I'm not having a go at the NHS. I'm potentially kind of having a dig at the system that's supposed to be set in place to help people with mental health issues, which I know it's the National Health Service, but I kind of feel like we need a completely separate thing nowadays just for mental health. And I'm sure there is little subsidiary things, but I mean an actual kind of NHS based one. So yeah, so it's about kind of seeking normal, or what some psychologists will class as neurotypical. The mental health I'm going to talk about, I will cover, because of what I've experienced, are breakdowns, self-confidence, or their lack of, what I consider to be my own mental health, which is I can Billy bullshit my way through most things and put a smile on my face and get on to do it and then freak out about it afterwards or beforehand. But I'm also the kind of person that I understand that I will only swim properly when I'm drowning. So sometimes stress for me is a double-edged sword, where you need that bit of stress, you need that bit of pressure. But nowadays you're told that anxiety is bad and stress is bad and you should de-stress. And no, sometimes stress is a driving force. It's what you need to kick you up the arse and get you out of bed in the morning, because you've got to pay your bills. So you've got to have that little bit of stress, that little bit of anxiety, when it's managed for stuff that's you physically moving forward. But we'll come on to more of that. I'm going to talk a little bit about medication that I was prescribed to help me with mental health. So we'll discuss that a little bit. And then how I affect the people around me and whose responsibility is that. Because I'm not always 100% certain I share everybody's view on this. So like I said, this is going to be quite candid and we're going to see what falls out of my head. Right, but we're going to kind of get into it. If you're there and you're sort of happy and you've had a great day or you've had a stressful day, by all means put in. If you've had a bit of a stressy day, and I think I can sort of drop in a little word of wisdom, then I will do. If you're watching this back and you're not watching it live, thank you. Thanks for sticking around. And yeah, by all means put comments in there. Let me know where you're watching it from. That would be the first cool thing. See where your audience is from. I think the ghosts are affecting my life. Okay, right, let's get into it. What is normal? I'm 40 something, so my childhood was sort of 80s, 90s. So as far as I was concerned, the lessons I was learning as to how to be a well-adjusted male in society were cues from like He-Man, so you've got to be strong. As a man, you've got to be strong, you've got to man up. And those sort of terms like that, pull your socks up, they were kind of motivational. People look at them now, not quite so motivational. James Bond, so you've got to be suave, you've got to be able to communicate properly, you've got to be able to talk to the opposite sex in a particular way, and that's how you've got to act. It's got to be a suit, or do you know what I mean? You've got to dress in that style to have that lifestyle. And then you kind of tip it over the edge with the comedy of the 80s and 90s, Benny Hill, the Crankies. It's no wonder the people of my generation, we've got a little bit of a screw loose going on with what was going on when we were kids, subliminally being fed to us through TV. So yeah, so you grow up thinking there's particular ways that you have to behave as a man. And then you have, okay, well, you've got to behave as a man, then you've got to behave as a boyfriend, or you've then got to behave as a fiance. And there's always this next level to being the man you're trying to work out who you want to be, this normal bloke. And I found that quite difficult because my sense of normal didn't seem to marry up with everybody else's. I'd got no interest in watching TV to do with the news. In the little village I lived in, people would sort of, I remember when, I think it was Diana, I think the Diana murder or killing or death or whatever you want to class it as, that happened when I was a kid. And I vaguely remember my mum and grandma, my aunties and that talking about it, but I got no interest. And I got no interest in anything that was outside of where I lived. I never understood anybody else's fascination with that either. I would sit and watch the politics programme with my grandma and then try and figure out why she was so invested in a system that she described as, well, it's all the same, it just depends what monkey you put at the front. It's like, well, the system's broken then. It was already broken back then. I don't think it's got any better now. So yeah, so that's just one bit. And nowadays we have social media. I'm not sure how social media is at the minute, and I kind of treat Facebook with a double-edged sword, because if I post something on my newsfeed, my friends don't see it because they're only seeing what Facebook is targeting to try and sell them or promote to them, or friends that they've possibly interacted with a little bit, and then it's just a shared page from another post from another page which is linked to a company. And it's just this algorithm, I can't figure it out, I can't get behind it, because none of it seems sociable to me. I'm more distant now from my Facebook friends than I was before, because I have to get through all of the nonsense, the adverts, the propaganda, the sponsored posts, just to try and get to my friends. And then what do my friends do when they're on Facebook? They'll post posts about mental health, shared from another page. So this will then send me down a rabbit hole where I will then have a look at the page that they're sending it from. And sometimes it's got nothing to do with mental health. We're just click hunting. We're like hunting. That's all this is. And this kind of bring me full circle. Just while I'm on this tangent, we'll stay on it. So they share a page where they're sort of saying about their mental health, and they've shared something that relates probably to them. So they're more than likely giving you a little inkling of what their mental health is by the post that they're sharing. And I get that, I understand, because when we connect with something, we go, oh yeah, this shit affects me, and we share it. And I get that, totally. But that's not raising awareness of mental health, because all it's doing is posting and feeding the money machine, which is Facebook. Nothing changes with anybody's mental health. I don't know of anybody that's had a post come up on their Facebook page and gone, oh dude, that proper touched me, that did. I had to give somebody a call. It's not happened to me ever. And I don't know of anybody it's happened to, where it's just an impersonal share on Facebook or Twitter or something like that to do with sharing awareness of mental health. We're all aware that people are mental. So mental health is everywhere. We know about it. So going back to, we're going to jump backwards slightly. So we go back to when I was a kid and at school. I was of the generation where I could hear my parent speaking about the naughty kids, the kids that don't concentrate, well, they're just troublemakers. And I was one of these kids, to be fair. I was disruptive. I was disruptive in class. I couldn't engage with how education was taught. I kind of felt like I was an elephant being taught how to climb a tree. None of it made sense, other than the only subjects that did were physics and PE. I really liked those subjects because they were kind of logical and I could put them into practical world. So that was the kind of schooling, and that's how you're that's how you're described as a child. You're either disruptive, and I've got some of my old report cards, and it's could do better, would need to pay attention. Is that my fault for the lack of attention, or their fault for not showing me some attention in a way that I could have engaged with properly? On hindsight, yeah, it's their failing. It's the school system. But the school system is never going to get every single pupil 100% correct. That's a hit rate nobody's ever going to get. So expecting every child to come through school with exactly the same academic levels, socially and academically, it's just never going to happen. Which does lead me to the sort of point nowadays with the kind of participation awards and things. That's skewed things, and I don't think that's helped mental health, I'll be honest. So you're going through school, and just as I'm getting ready for my GCSEs, what do they call them? It's like guidance teacher said to me about having a test for dyslexia. Nobody had spoken to me about what dyslexia was, didn't really fully understand it. As far as I was concerned, this man was telling me I was thick and I had a problem, and he would get me a scribe, somebody to read like the questions and things to me. I was kind of offended, thinking, no, I'm not stupid. I just don't know how to write the answers that you've been trying to put into my head onto your bit of paper after 4 years of me being here. I'm not 100% certain I'm going to take full responsibility for that. But that was obviously not what I said at the time, because I was 15. So I went, no, I'm all right, it'll be fine. So anyway, they pushed for the test, my mum pushed for the test, and yeah, it was deemed there was dyslexia. And I still didn't want any help. Because by this point, we've got to the end of the game now. I just need to sit this test, get out of this system, and do some stuff I want to do in a way that I want to do it. And I'll communicate how I want. My writing will be scrappy, my spelling will be a bit shit, but I'll get by, it'll be fine. And that was literally the kind of my logic through school. So what did I get prepared for at school? Nothing. Form filling. That's probably about it. Oh, and looking after myself, trying to get through the day. But everything else, academically, was form filling. I never learned how to sort bills out or pay for stuff, or none of that. So it just you just figure it out as you go. I didn't expect school. We did home economics, I think, and we did modern studies that spoke about politics and stuff. But it was all done in such a regimented fashion. I just couldn't engage with it like that. Me and lots of other kids at the same time, I'm sure. I can't be the only person that sat in school and went, none of this makes sense. I don't get it. Why is it done like this? So that diagnosis as a kid, did it help me in later life? No, not really. It helped me take the pressure off sometimes in situations where I felt perhaps a bit academically pressured. I could then say, well, I've got dyslexia. But I'd never adopted any of the actual principles that help people with dyslexia. So I never helped myself really with like different kind of papers or just all the kind of array of stuff that's available. So as an adult, you kind of, it's just in the past. I get by now. Fill forms in. I've got Siri to check my spelling or Word, so it's fine. It's not such a big deal in theory, I suppose. But as an adult, you're still dealing with the mental health and not processing the stuff as a kid. The expectations that were put in by me because of my environment So we then end up with an adult with mental health problems. So they need the NHS in theory. But right, I'm just gonna have a sip of my coffee, take a bit of a breather, because I do this every time. I just hell for leather for about 15 minutes. But if you're there, just put a wave in, say hi. If your week's been good, let me know. If it's not, let me know. Where you're watching from, let me know. Be cool. I'm just nosy. So yeah, so first step then. You go to somebody and you break down. You've opened your entire head into their lap. There you go. The first thing they say is, right, well, you need to speak to a doctor. Okay. Now, I'm not even going to include any of this within all this COVID stuff because it was, good God, 15 years ago when I was trying to phone the NHS and getting nowhere. And nowadays, even before COVID, you'd spend ages on the phone trying to get through to a doctor to not be able to make an appointment at any point, but then told to phone back the following day at 8 o'clock in the morning to possibly get an appointment, to be unsuccessful, to not be able to get an appointment, to then be told to phone back 8 o'clock. That's not a cycle anybody with mental health is ever going to engage with. I can't be the only one that thinks that, surely. And I can't be the only person that thinks at this end of the phone, that's not a system that people are going to engage with. But neither are triple fold flyers. So what is this system that people are going to engage with? Tell them it's their own mental health. Tell them to take responsibility for their own mental health. The NHS is not the only option. You could go private. It's not the cheapest option, but it's an option. The NHS is a broken system when it comes to mental health. So you have to prepare yourself to get into the system and you have to jump through the hoops. Your mental health is your responsibility, but the ability to get on the NHS mental health train is your resilience to your mental health. It's the first stand against your own mental health to go, fuck it, I'm going to just set today to try and figure out if I can get somebody to help me out with my mental health. So you've perhaps called the crisis team. They're good. Do you speak to them? They're good. So there is ways of engaging with it, but we've got to mentally prepare ourselves for the person at the end of the phone to not say the right thing because they don't know who we are. So we have to have responsibility for our own mental health. We cannot just have that person pick up the phone to answer it and go, hello, sort of, how can I help? And then we open up Pandora's box of stuff and expect them to give us a concise solution to it. And the reason I say this is because that's what I was looking for every time. Every time I phoned up the NHS or a doctor, I wanted the answer to the problem. Whether it's my male brain or just me, I've identified the problem, I'm depressed. Now I've figured out my way to solve it. The doctor is the way to solve it. That's what they've said. Mental health, they sort out health, they're going to solve the problem. No, they don't know. And that's it. This is the next stumbling block with the NHS because the mental health side of things, the next treatment that comes is to treat the symptoms. So they're now going to treat your anxiety, your panic attacks. I'll come back to panic attacks in a minute. I have a different view on those. I lost my tangent. Anyway, yeah, I'll jump on the panic attack tangent. I've always called my panic attacks moments. It's a random moment where I get an absolute rush of blood to the head. My heart's pounding, my pulse is racing, my breathing goes weird, my voice stutters, I can't get my words out, but I am buzzing my nuts off. Absolutely buzzing. Because for whatever reason, my body has gone into fight-flight mode, but with no adrenaline run. And this is the bit I've figured out that's missing. I'm not panicking in that situation, I'm just prepared. And I don't know why I'm prepared. So rather than going, oh no, I'm panicking, what's going on? What have I missed? I actually go, wow, what a rush. I can't, I'm not in a dangerous situation. I'm just having a panic attack. Obviously, if you're in a dangerous situation or a situation that's caused a panic attack, then you need to exit from that situation. What I'm talking about is when you get the random one where you just suddenly get a panic attack. And it's why I changed the words. It's not a panic attack, it's just a moment. I'm having a rush moment. And I will sit and try and ride that rush for as long as it goes, which sounds insane and goes against everything that they've ever told me, because they're a panic attack. You want to calm your breathing, focus, ground yourself. No, I'm going to ride the buzz. There is oxygenated blood flowing around my brain. I could shop at 1,000,000 miles an hour at this moment in time. Never mind anxiety or whoever's in here. I'm buzzing. And that changed my mentality and flipped the switch on who was in control of that moment. Because yeah, okay, I don't know why it went off or what set it off. I don't need to know. It doesn't matter, it's happening, so I embrace it, and I can embrace it negatively or positively, or I can just ride the wave. So that's what I did, and that was my coping mechanism. Not easy sometimes if it happens around people that don't know me, so you kind of, I will go off and just do, I don't know, it tends to always happen in shops. Busy shops set it off, so crowded spaces do make me anxious. But I don't get a moment every single time I go into a shop. That's not how it works. And I'll be actually in a really good mood, generally, milling about. Not at the last one I had was in Dunham Mill. And I was literally just wandering around looking at bed covers. And then it came on. And I was then shocked. I think I spent way too much money in there. I bought an hourglass that cost far too much money. It's massive, which Penny can vouch for, because I was buzzing. And it was just I refuse to have somebody tell me that something that's happening to me is negative if it doesn't necessarily feel negative to me. And that's where treating symptoms with, first I was given what's it called? It's Prozac, but it's not called Prozac. Fluoxetine. First I was put on fluoxetine, which when the doctors sort of got the levels of what they thought, they sort of spoke to them, how do you feel on the tablets? And I went, to be fair, somebody could walk up, steal my left leg, and I wouldn't even mind. That's not a healthy state of mind. Why am I so not? I don't care about it. I was numb. So it obviously weaned me back, so the levels back down again. And then you start to feel your own mentality start to kick in. Then there was a change of circumstances, a move, and I ended up, the doctors I went to put me on sertraline. And I've got to be honest, I didn't really feel much of a difference with that. And that partly the reason I said nothing, even though I kept saying, is because it pacified the person that had told me to go to the doctors. The person I was trying to talk to and get the stuff out of my head should have been the person I was able to talk to. And they weren't. So their answer was, you need to speak to a doctor, you need to speak to a professional. So I did. They didn't give a shit, they didn't come to the appointment. I could barely get them to Google anything to do with what I said I was struggling with, to just give them a little bit of a basis to an understanding of it. So I took the tablets for them, because they were doing bugger all for me. But that effect meant that they thought I'd got shit under control. And I hadn't. I was on tablets. If I've got shit under control, you don't need tablets, surely. Because they're only dealing with the symptoms. You need to trace back the cause. And I'm not saying this is easy, this is how I did it. So you trace back the cause as to what's potentially giving the anxiety. Yeah, it's a crowded space. What's my anxiety with crowded space? People are probably staring at me. They're making judgments. Do I value their opinion? No. But do I still get anxious about it? Yes. Is that a contradiction? Fuck yeah. It's irritating because I have no idea why I give a monkeys about somebody else's opinion on an anxiety level, but in real life, on perspective and on hindsight, I have no idea who they are. So I don't value their opinion from anybody, really. So the contradiction comes in. Once I get the contradiction into my head, now I can break that part of the anxiety down into which bits I'm in control of and which bits I'm not. Can I control somebody else's opinion of me? No. Do I want to? Well, I don't want somebody to have a bad opinion of me, but I also can't please all the people all the time. So you have to play the balance and sort of sit like that. But what do you guys think? Does that Does anybody relate to what I'm saying? Is kind of the whole point. The whole point to this is cathartic for me to get stuff out of my head. It's helping my mental health. It's bubbling stuff to the surface, which is not always good. But if it's bubbled and it's gone, it evaporates off into the ether, then that's surely a good thing. And if it helps just one person watching this, then I'm happy. Cheers to that, because that would be amazing. If you haven't already clicked like on the page, please do so. That would be amazing too. Okay, so we've now got a plan in place. We've got some medication. We're going to start addressing the symptoms. If we're addressing the symptoms a little bit, maybe we'll be in a better position to mentally be able to address the cause of the symptoms. And it is always valuable to remember that is the difference. When you take a headache tablet, you're masking the pain, which is the response of the headache. You're not solving the headache, you're just masking the pain of the headache, which I know sounds really like I just patronised you there. I'm sure none of you are that stupid that thought tablets get rid of headaches. They don't, they mask the pain of a headache. So we've got that side of things. Then we've got our friends or network of people, and not everybody's got as many people in a network. And sometimes I think people rely too heavily on a network. If you're constantly only open to talking to a few particular people, you're not actually going to progress forward with a level of trust for anybody or yourself and your ability to overcome new and challenging moments with other people, because you're constantly getting the same responses from the same people in an ever perpetual circle. So that's going to be how it works. So meeting new people and formulating opinions on new people is important, because that's the human condition. We communicate with each other. We're a pack animal. So we then start to rely on the people around us. And this is where it gets a little bit wild, because as much as I've had good conversations with professionals, professional counsellors, incidentally, the best bit of counselling I ever received was when I had my nervous breakdown working for National Grid Gas. That company couldn't have looked after me any better. It was brilliant. I got the counselling I needed, I got the time off I needed, I got the support I needed. In a situation where mental health blew up in their face, they couldn't have responded any better to it, really. So yeah, that was slightly diverted there. So yes, we've got the network of people around us. I'm not massively reliant on it being the same kind of people. If you've always got that default person that you offload and debrief to, that's wearing. It's wearing for them. You start to sound like a stuck record, or at least this is how I feel. So you need to split your sections down, split it into bits that you know particular friends can sympathise with, or they understand, or you don't need to offload everything into that, or find that, like I said, phone mind or a crisis team or something like that, so that you can literally just reach out, get it out of your head, if you need to have a fucking rant, have a rant at somebody, tell them on the phone, look, I'm not suicidal, I'm not looking for an answer, but I need to get this shit out of my head, and just kind of tell me at the end of it, I'll be all right, and it's fairly normal, you'll figure out coping mechanisms. Just give me the general patter at the end, I just need to get this out of my head. And that can massively help. But if you're constantly reliant on the same person, that becomes wearing, which is where I sympathise to an extent, even though I just said what I said, with the person I'm with, because I know it gets wearing. It gets wearing for me. So how do you overcome that? How do you stop it becoming wearing for somebody else? You let them see progress. That's all it is. You start your conversation a little bit earlier next time. You don't get to the point where you've kind of, I don't know, said something stupid or huffed or walked out and gone, fuck it. Do you know what I mean? You've got to the point where you just think, oh, I feel a bit, well, we use the word fractious. So I just feel fractious today. Like I feel something's coming where I'm going to have to potentially defend myself, is how I feel. So you kind of get that fractious aspect. Now, that's not up to anybody else to walk on eggshells around me. That's not what I'm asking for at all, because that would bug me as well. What I'm saying is, today, just let's not come to me with anything stupid or anything that I don't really need to deal with if I don't need to deal with it today. See Penny looking at me. Penny does the same, but it's balance. It's being able to sort of go, this is where I can feel my emotions or my mental health going, and then being able to have that release without it burdening them. I'm not asking for my partner to solve the problem. Not, fucking hell. That's not what I'm asking at all. What I'm asking is just a sounding board, and then don't judge me as an arsehole afterwards, because I need to get this out of my head so that I can move forward. So who can you call? You wanted to say Ghostbusters, I know. Who are you going to call? Call anybody. Call a random number if you like. If it breaks the cycle of whatever's going on in your head, do that. Reach out to whoever is the easiest thing in the world to say. And I have had it said to me plenty of times. If you need her, mate, just let me know. We know it's not, it doesn't carry the same sentiment as, I thought I'd give you a ring just to check, see how you are. Or dropping somebody a message. What, dude, how's things? That makes far more sense than posting something on Facebook for a start that's to make people aware of mental health. If you know somebody with mental health, drop them a text.
I sent somebody a heart and said, just because.
Yeah. Sorry, Penny just said she sent somebody a heart with the words just because. And yeah. That's the easiest way to chip away at somebody who's got mental health, is just to drop them a message. How's things? You know, potentially, if you message the person, they're going to go, well, it's been a bit shit, work's been rough, I've had my paid doctor, I've been furloughed. There's going to be stuff, and you've got stuff as well. So you can now go, yeah, my place has done this. There's now a conversation. Nobody's talking about mental health. We're just having a conversation now. And we're de-stressing. Things that used to go on across pub tables, dining tables when family would sit down to eat together, and things like, in moments like that where people would communicate, the stresses wouldn't build up. People wouldn't think that having this anxiety is so personal to them. Everybody's got it because it's essential for life. You have to have anxiety. There has to be an element of stress. And I was talking to somebody in the week about people deal with stress in different ways. I can find something I don't understand or know how to do quite well. If I'm forced to do it, that's going to cause me anxiety. Of course it is, because I'm out of my comfort zone. But it's not, but the word anxiety nowadays has such a connotation of being such a negative. Well, I've got anxiety. Years ago, we used to go, I've got butterflies in my tummy. Same thing, but a totally different mindset. I've got butterflies. Yeah, they're the nerves. Nerves are what make you think better. Your heart races that a little bit quicker. You'll think a bit, which is why I buzz when I sit here and I'm talking to myself, although I have got caffeine, so that's kind of adding a little bit, I suppose. So yeah, drop a text to a mate. If you're genuinely worried about something, we can have WhatsApp groups. I just don't, at one point I had a random conversation with a person I met through Instagram because we liked a couple of different photos and put some comments. Then ended up having a random chat for probably a couple of hours, and that was it. And it was a monumental moment of just two people that just met at one point and went. Don't get me wrong, we still follow each other on Instagram, but there was just that moment we had a conversation, there was a reason to talk. Now there's not so much. We don't need to as much. And this is what I mean, we kind of have our reliant unit of people that we rely heavily on. The next part of this, was something I was speaking about with somebody else. I'm going to move on slightly. Since I've only got a couple of viewers, but I'm just going to talk like there's hundreds of people there. Imagine I'm at Wimbledon or something, not playing tennis. No, let's not do that. Anyway, there was the little interlude. Sponsored by coffee. Right, where was I? The other thing is, you can't sit in your little well of anxiety or depression and expect somebody to drop you a message because you need it. You sometimes have to be the one that instigates the conversation. And it just needs to be a conversation. I think there's so much pressure now on people to be the mental health support for our friends and family. And I get it, we want to be understanding and supportive. But we've also got to keep things in perspective. We've got to progress as human beings. With a world that's becoming more and more fragile as we go on. So we're going to have to deal with this stuff. So why are we being so anxious and unlevel-headed about it? We really need to start sorting out our own mental health. If it's part of our education system, then it's that. If it's external forces that are affecting our DNA and we're actually becoming genetically have a genetic disposition for mental health, then surely we need to evolve and change that. We need to start setting much more positive parameters, reachable goals. Let's not have measurable stats for people that's based on what car you drive, how much money you've got in the bank, what job you've got. How about it's how nice you are to somebody? Have it as measurable stuff that absolutely every single person on the planet can see value in. Not everybody on the planet can see the value in a Mercedes Benz, but everybody sees the value of a smile. When somebody talks to you and they're happy to speak to you and talk to you, that's got value in it. Sorry, a bit passionate. Well, I'm not sorry. I just kind of think it leads to my next point. It is nobody else's responsibility, my mental health. And I will never be offended by somebody who doesn't understand that I've got shit in my past that if they said jokingly might upset me. It's not their responsibility to know what's going on in my... What am I supposed to do? Hand out an autobiography of everybody? Oh, you can't say stuff like that because I've got mental health issues. No, I can say stuff like that because I've got mental health issues. They don't need to have the responsibility of my mental health issues and their own to be able to have a conversation with somebody in a room. And this is where a lot of, I personally think the anxiety comes in, because we're all shit scared of saying stuff in front of people and offending them. So we're now anxious to talk to people in case we upset somebody and offend them. And our communication is breaking down because people are so easily offended. Now I'm sticking this with mental health. I'm talking about mental health stigmas, being neurotypical. I'm not talking about anything else. This is just the mental health side of things. That level of anxiety, just trying to talk to our fellow human. Why do we have this level of anxiety? Because we're not all equals. Because there's a measure put in place that means we're not equal. Well, it shows a measure of unequal people. How you view yourself within that measure is entirely up to you. And this is where I think I've always struggled. People always told me I got no respect for people in high positions. And I could be quite honest with you. Why? Why do I'll respect them from the point of fact they gave me a job. That's great as an employer. But my respect for them stretches no further than the bounds of the company that they've put me in or I've become to work in. I'm not disrespectful, but I also won't bend over backwards. I won't change my values and who I am to appease them to get their appraisal of who I am, because they'll know better than I am just because they've got a company or a big car or a pool in the garden. None of that, as far as I'm concerned, is measurable. And for anybody who's eagle-eyed, that's a copy. It's from Egypt. Just for anybody tells me about a brand, that's an Egyptian first. I bought it when I was in Egypt about 5 years ago. So that's how good this t-shirt is and how tight I am when it comes to clothes. So, social parameters are put in. So we're anxious before we started in case we upset someone, because none of us want to upset anybody. So I don't want to upset somebody else if I touch a subject to do with politics, religion, COVID, race, heritage, my God, it's a minefield. Before we even get into the realms of sexuality, sexual preference, it gets even more of a minefield at that point. And as a 40-year-old bloke, fuck it, I'm lost. Don't know. Don't know how it all works. I just choose my words carefully and focus on myself. Simple as that. Because it's not up to anybody else to preempt how to handle me without offending me. That's not how I want people to communicate with me. I want them to be honest, frank, blunt, to the point. If there's a reason that we're talking, there's a reason that we're talking. If you're watching this now, there's a reason that the universe has brought you to this point. Hopefully it's to hear something that might help. Or you might hear something that I say and think, oh, actually, have you thought about this, dude? Put that in the comments. I don't consider myself better than anybody else. And that's where those social constructs that were there as a kid, the teacher needs respect. Why does the teacher need respect? The teacher didn't teach me anything. So why am I respecting them? Because the system told me to respect them. They were in a position of respect. But I didn't put them there. I got no interest in them being in that position at all. Do you see how I can completely disassociate from giving people that credibility as they're brilliant? I don't measure a person by what they're driving. I love comments like, because of the kind of person I am, if I was to go and look at buying a car, because I'm quite big, it's got to be a Ford fucking Ranger or something 4-wheel drive or something pretty chunky. I can't drive a little MR2. That's not going to look right. Or is that just how I'm thinking because of how I've grown up and the impression that people put on me as to what kind of car a particular person drives? Thank you to Penny for my second cup of coffee. We'd have had to stop the show early if I had to run out of coffee. So, sitting in that middle ground of, I don't want to offend anybody else, but also I'm not going to jump on somebody if somebody says something to me that I could theoretically be offended at, but they didn't know. Unless somebody says something bloody maliciously, then they're just words. Just chill out. So the topic I was talking about in the week with somebody was, in depression we have moments where we have highs and we have these real happy days and everything seems flipping great. There's freaking rainbows everywhere, everything you do goes well, it's great. And then you have days where everything turns to shit. You feel like shit, you can't be bothered to get out of bed, your left leg doesn't want to work, right leg's decided it doesn't want to work either, so fuck it, I'll just stay on the couch then. We've gone on strike. And they're the opposite ends of the spectrum. And yeah, we do get those. When you've got mental health or not, people get those. That's not just because you've got mental health that you have good days and bad days. The point I made when I was talking to this person was, what about the days in the middle? Tell me about the last day you had that was neither good nor bad. You just did nothing. But you were okay doing nothing. You took that moment and went, fuck it, I'm going to watch Netflix or Amazon or Disney Plus. I thought I'd best name them all there, just to be fair. Or Apple TV. Or you put a PlayStation on, you play a game, you read a book. But you take that time, not as self-love, self-care, just as your time. It's what I class as a neutral moment. You've probably not got to do anything. It could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour. And people with mental health struggle in these, I personally think, because I do. Because if I'm not doing something, I get lost inside my own head. And that was always as a negative, because the doctors tell you to do exercise, keep yourself busy, healthy body, healthy mind. Really? Because I can still think while I'm walking. I can still think while I'm in the gym. And if you go to the gym, that's another social situation where I could potentially bump into somebody and have something not go according to plan. So that could potentially be an anxious moment. But it's okay, because we're going to do some exercise, so that will help with my mental health. I get it, that fit body, fit mind, I get that logic. But when your brain turns to mush and decides it doesn't want to get off the couch for the day, no couch to 5k, or somebody telling you that going for a walk will help, because it won't. It'll actually make things worse, because I'm going to force myself to do something I just don't want to do. For whatever reason, I just don't want to do it. And it's accepting that moment that I haven't got anything to do, I haven't got to go anywhere, I haven't got to be anywhere. And then don't phone somebody, just chill out. Take some time to go for a little journey through your head, defrag some crap. It's what I class as a meditation. People who do real meditation, I'm sure, would be probably offended by that comment, because I do a kind of like a thinking meditation. So I will defrag my brain and get stuff out to be able to move forward. Because the only time you work anything out is retrospectively. Once you've got all the pieces, then you can figure it out. And you don't know you've got all the pieces until you've figured it out. So you can't figure it out until you've got all the pieces, so you're constantly looking for the pieces. Do you get the perpetual dodgy spiral that my brain can go into? So my advice is, in this instance, try and create some keywords, safe words, if you will, with friends or family. It could just be that you send a friend a dot, just a full stop as a text, and then that's their indication to just give you a call, to call you back, or FaceTime you. So you haven't got to sort of say, I need help, because nobody wants to say that. That's the hardest thing in the world to say. And this is where it comes back to being a dad and a man and a husband and a partner, because I have to be the strongest person in the room. I have to be the most equipped, because that's the standards I set for myself as growing up as a man. But where my mental health will kick in is, I have an anxiety if anybody's reliant on me, because my mental health can make me a little bit unreliable to an extent. So if you're reliant on me, that's now added a little bit of extra pressure to my mental health, because I've now got to cater for you potentially as well. And that's where it can impound a little bit. And I'm not 100% certain that people understand that in their own mental health. And I hope that something that I've said tonight will just jog the mind of somebody, the partner of a man, and just sort of go, dude, watch this. I've been completely frank and honest with you guys. And this this kind of vlog is designed to get conversations finished to an extent. It's not about starting a conversation about mental health. It's fucking there. We know it is. So we're not starting a conversation about mental health. This is about finding not solutions as such, but practical applications where people can just go, do you know what? It's all right to have fucking fractured brain at times. You haven't got to fix it now. Just because the doctor says to you, well, we're going to put you on a course of these for the next 6 or 12 months. Now there's a time scale. Or you've got to ask for a repeat prescription every month. You've got to tell the doctor every single month, I need them tablets. I need them tablets. It's reinforcing I need the tablets because I've got mental health. That perpetual cycle, you're stuck on a carousel and you never get off of it. Until the moment when you kind of, well, for me, I sort of went, do you know what, this is my mental health. I'm going to fucking sort this myself because I need to. And the reason I got to grips with my mental health, or how my brain fractured certain situations that I'd get myself into, because I didn't have the same perspective as everybody else. I'm going to tell you guys something now that not a lot of people know. In fact, I could probably say there's only a handful of people that know about it. And I've purposely kind of waited to the last bits of the video, because if you've watched through to this point, thank you, I appreciate it. My early teens, I had a place that I used to call my thinking rock. And at that point, I didn't regard it as meditation. Thinking rock was my point to put things back into perspective and balance. And this rock was sort of 20, 30 feet above a quarry. And I would sit on the edge of it with my legs off the edge, my hands the side of my knees, and just think. At any moment, I had the control to lean forward or lean back. Nobody else, there was nobody else there. None of my decision making was based on the effects it would have on anybody else. This was purely for me to put my life in perspective. Find a reason to lean back, lean back. Think of a reason to lean forward a little bit, lean forward a little bit. Does that reason to lean forward really mean committing to death? No, I don't think it does. I'll lean back again. Right, so let's think about the next problem. Okay, so we'll lean forward thinking about that problem. Does that really warrant killing myself over it? No, I don't think it does, really. And it's this realisation of, I kind of put things in perspective, but I'm such a visual learner and I need to feel the essence of what I was trying to do. So, no, I wasn't suicidal at all. I've never been suicidal. But I wanted to create balance in that it's my choice to lean forward too far, or it's my choice to just lean back, lay back, my legs hanging over the edge, the sun's shining, it's glorious. All about perspective. Laying back with your feet hanging over the edge, the sky is there, the whole world's ahead of you. You sit forward and lean forward, now you see the pit and what's basically a quarry. That's balance, as far as I was concerned in my head at that point. Now, for legal reasons, I do not recommend doing that at all. Sitting on the edge of a cliff is very dangerous. Don't do it. Thank you. But it's how I got things in perspective. Incidentally, the closest I've ever been to actually thinking I could end this. I was asked by a doctor if I'd ever had suicidal thoughts. And I said, no, I've not sort of thought, oh, I'm going to cut my... No, never thought of that at all. And also because as a kid, I had friends that committed suicide. So you kind of see the ripple and the wake from that. But that wasn't what was basing my decision on, because that's thinking of everybody else. I'm not thinking of anybody else, I'm thinking about me. The priority is me. I need to move forward in a way that I'm happy with, so I feel I'm moving forward. And yeah, okay, you've got to drag some shit along, and that's just fucking life. But you have to keep it in perspective. And that little anecdote of my life is how it's been with my mental health since, 13, 14. Having that perspective and balance that my life was worth more than the crap that was stressing me out. I got that, that's why I was figuring it out. But having that visual representation of just lean back, now everything's peachy. Lean forward, no it's not. You have that control. And that made me have control of my mental health and bear no responsibility to anybody else. It's not up to anybody else. And I personally think that's the most difficult thing to do. If you can take responsibility for your mental health, not anybody else's responsibility. Nobody else's mental health is the same as mine. Mine is separate. It might have some caveats that are similar to other people because I'm a human and so are they. So there's always going to be similarities, but my mental health is absolutely 100% unique to me. And you know why? Because I've lived it, and I've lived inside this head for 43 years. It's mine. So anybody telling me that they understand mental health, yeah, I'm sure you do. And I understand mental health. I've studied it. Studied sociology, counselling, life coaching, autism. I've studied psychology. But my psychology is different to most things that I read in the book. One, because I'm quite arrogant in that respect. Because if I know it's my mental health, I'm the only one that can sort it out. And I have found coping strategies throughout my life to deal with it. So it is my responsibility. Now, at this moment in time, I'm not on any medication at all for my mental health. And I think that's pretty good. And yeah, I have some low days. think yesterday was a bit of a low day, to be fair. Yesterday was a low day. I felt pretty fractious. I think I upset my daughter. It's unfortunate. Sorry about that. But I was having a low day. And that's where we have to have that little bit of tolerance. Not understanding. I don't want somebody to understand my mental health, and I don't expect somebody else to understand my mental health. But if you talk to somebody as just a civil human being, you won't offend somebody anyway. How does hello, how's your day going start an offensive conversation? It's only, we're so attached to this because social media is so full of bullshit propaganda that's constantly being rammed down our throats, that there is arguments there that they're not there. They're only there because people want clicks on it. They want recognition for it. They want clickbait through their website so they can sell advertising or freaking information. I don't know. But I know one thing, none of it is fit for purpose. I don't know of anybody that's dealt with their mental health after seeing a meme. If you have, I want to know, please put a comment down below. That would be great. So I'm going to summarise. To summarise what I mean is, not everything that gets described as mental health comes under mental health. That's just normal. It is normal to feel anxiety. It's normal to feel stress. It is normal to look at yourself in the mirror and think, God, my eyes are baggy today. I don't feel great. I need to shave. That's normal. What isn't normal is walking around thinking about it for the next 3 hours. And that's where, if you're talking about your own mental health, have that conversation. Have a chat with yourself in the mirror. Like you would if you were talking to a friend. Don't perhaps have people hear you. They might think you've gone mad and phone people. But I have often said, right, I'm going to have a chat with myself. Because I'm the only person that knows me 100%. Nobody else does. I'm the only one that knows me 100%. So I have to have that responsibility for my own actions. I'm just making sure. Let me just check my notes. Hold on. Have a coffee. Have a drink of your coffee. I feel like I've not stopped speaking.
You haven't.
So, to summarise, you'll only fully understand your own mental health, or parts of your own mental health, once you've gone past them, because hindsight fills in all the blanks. Some of my anxieties as a kid were, like I said last week, were to do with not being anywhere near my family or my dad. As soon as I moved down here, that anxiety went, because I got the relationship with my dad. So anxieties come and go. And then as I've got older, I've understood and been able to deconstruct the anxieties I had as a child about my dad, how I treated my dad because of how I felt, to how we are now as grown-ups and adults. And we're different people than we were then. And it's your responsibility is what I'm getting at. My mental health is my responsibility. And those are some of the coping strategies that I've used. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been a little bit dark at times, I get that. That's the nature of mental health. Try and just enjoy the level moments, the plateaued moments, the moments when you're not buzzing because you're happy, you're not depressed and anxious because you're sad and some shit's gone wrong. The bits in between. Fill the gap in the middle with normal. It is normal to get bored in the day and get peed off that Netflix hasn't got enough films on it, or Disney hasn't put Condor Man on there. That's normal stuff. That's not... The other thing, I think I did this as a kid naturally without, and I don't think a lot of people can do this as easily. I don't mind my own space. I can be on my own but not feel alone. I don't mean because there's people around me or voices in my head. I mean as in I'm comfortable in my own space. Not for long. I think my limit's probably about 4 or 5 hours. After that, I kind of, I get cabin fever. I need to go out, do something, message somebody. So it is understanding you.